Ever get the feeling that things in finance are, I don't know, a little shakier these days?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like under the surface, things are shifting. Well, we're going to depth dive into all of that today. Specifically, we're going to be looking at Aerapass and some of the solutions they offer to navigate this, this new financial world.
Sounds good.
It's interesting because since 2008, governments around the world, they've been quietly rolling out this thing called bail-in legislation.
Right, bail-ins.
And, you know, it's kind of a big departure from the old bailouts we used to hear about.
Yeah.
Huge difference, yeah.
Because with bailouts, taxpayers, you and me, we were essentially footing the bill to save these big banks when they got into trouble.
Exactly.
But with bail-ins, it's a whole different story.
It is.
Now it's the large depositors and bondholders who could end up shouldering the losses.
Makes sense. Keep the banks accountable.
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is to make the banks think twice before taking on too much risk.
Right. Make them more responsible. But it also creates a whole new set of risks for people like us.
Oh, absolutely.
Because certainly, your money in the bank, you know, especially if you have more than, say, 100,000 SGD in Singapore or 800,000 HKD in Hong Kong.
Which, let's be honest, a lot of people do.
Right. You know, you're potentially on the hook if your bank goes belly up.
Yeah, and it's not just about cash in a savings account, right?
Exactly.
This whole trend of dematerialization of securities, it's added another layer of complexity.
Dematerialization.
Yeah.
It sounds so futuristic.
It does, doesn't it?
But in reality, it means that your stocks, bonds, you know, the things you think you own.
You might actually own them in the traditional sense.
Right. They often exist as just electronic records.
That's it.
And guess what?
Is what?
Financial institutions can use those assets, your assets, as collateral for their own dealings.
Yep.
So in a crisis, if things go south, your investments, they might not be as safe and sound as you think.
It's a bit unsettling when you think about it.
It is, and it gets even more complicated when you factor in things like the international harmonization of securities laws.
Right, and those safe harbor provisions for derivatives.
Basically, these rules can shield certain types of complex financial contracts.
Exactly. It makes it all very interconnected, very global.
And that's where some experts, like David Rogers Webb, in his paper, The Great Taking, start to get really concerned. They're worried about the potential for a coordinated collateral seizure globally if a major financial crisis were to hit.
It's a scary thought.
So that brings us to Aerapass. You know, we hear a lot about how they're aiming to provide some stability, a way to protect yourself in this new world.
They are, and I think what's really interesting about their approach is the focus on tangible assets.
Tangible. Oh.
Yeah, real stuff. Like instead of just holding on to digital representations of real you, they let you exchange your regular currency for things like physical precious metals.
You mean like actual gold bars?
Gold bars, silver coins, that sort of thing. And they're also looking at other real-world assets that are highly liquid and easily traded.
So basically, you're taking your money out of the traditional system, right?
In a way, yes. You're diversifying your portfolio, creating a safety net outside the immediate risks of the banking system.
So it's less about my money is in this bank account and more about I own this gold.
Exactly. And because these assets are physically held, they're not as susceptible to the things we've been talking about, like bail-ins or collateral grabs.
So I'm guessing this isn't about stuffing gold bars under your mattress.
Not quite.
Because that doesn't sound very practical.
It doesn't, does it? Aerapass actually uses some pretty sophisticated technology. It lets you manage and trade these tangible assets in real time. I mean, just as easily as you would stocks or bonds.
Oh, so it's not just for, you know, the super wealthy or something.
No, not at all. Their platform is built to work with the existing financial system. So it's accessible to everyone. Individuals, small businesses, even large institutions.
You're saying it's user-friendly.
Very much so. And they've also made sure to be compliant with regulations across multiple markets.
That's good, I guess.
Oh, it's crucial, especially in this environment. And on top of that, they use institutional-grade security measures to protect those physical assets.
So it's safe and accessible.
It is.
You know, with all the talk these days about the possibility of more bank failures, having those tangible assets, it feels like less of a luxury and more of a necessity.
I agree. It's about having something solid to fall back on if the system does experience another shock.
So just to bring it back to Aerapass, it sounds like what they offer is really a direct response to the very specific risks that we've been talking about, right?
It is. They're addressing the concerns head on,
Mhm.
the risks associated with bail-ins and the possibility of your assets being used as collateral in a crisis.
I'm getting the sense that it's a pretty forward-thinking approach, wouldn't you say?
I would, definitely. It's all about regaining control, about having direct ownership of tangible assets, things with intrinsic value.
So, for anyone listening who's feeling a little uneasy about the state of the financial world,
It's understandable to feel that way.
it is.
It might be a good time to take a serious look at solutions like Aerapass. It could be an important step in protecting your wealth and your peace of mind.
Great points.
Eh.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. And it leads to a bigger question, one I think we all need to consider. In a world where digital promises can be broken, what's the real lasting security of holding something tangible in your hand?
Something to think about.